Do you feel like your name fits you?
Oh, that is a really great question, Emily. No, not at all.
Honestly, I agree.
That my name doesn't fit me?
Yeah, I feel like Kyle is a name for a jerk.
Yes.
Or like a dude, you know? Like a real, like a dude's dude.
Yeah, like a totally Kyle.
Yes, maybe that's the reason. Maybe we just have totally
is.
Kyle cemented in our brains.
But I feel like there's like also, I don't know if it's just mimetic, but I feel like there's like a culture of not liking Kyles, you know?
Sure.
And I just don't want to be a part of that.
No, you are the best of Kyles. You're so much better than your name suggests.
Thanks, Sam.
Don't let the name put you off, listeners at home. He's a lovely man.
Don't judge a book by its cover, all right?
Don't judge a book by its Kyle.
So good. What about you, Em? Do you feel like your name?
I think my name fits me. I feel like there's a case to be made that Emily sounds a little more refined than I am. But I think it's...
Yeah, I mean, you're just walking around belching and spitting on things, you know?
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's too refined. And I think you're a pretty refined lady.
Oh, why thank you.
With a capital L.
Wow.
Welcome to Butter No Parsnips. Every week on Butter No Parsnips, your hosts Emily Moyers and Kyle Imperator take you on an adventure through the weird, wacky, wonderful, and sometimes even wicked world of one wayside word. Strange characters, delightful bits, and general joyousness abound. Join them as they test each other's etymological expertise.
And speaking of ladies and gentlemen, hey everybody at home. And for those of you in between, I guess we should be inclusive.
And those of you not at home.
And those of you not at home. Those of you, I don't know, locked in someone's garage.
Or just in your car, Kyle.
Yeah, welcome to Butter No Parsnips. I'm Kyle Imperator.
And I'm Emily Moyers.
And I am held hostage right now and being forced to hear about a word. And I'm about to find out what that word is.
Straight from my garage. Kyle, the word I have for you today is Hoyden. Hoyden. Hoyden.
Hoyden?
Sounds like this is Hoyden you.
I mean, Hoyden sounds like a guy that no one likes. Like, that's a name that you don't want to have.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Oh, him? That's Hoyden. You don't want to meet him.
Listen, you're not missing out, all right? You'll never guess what Hoyden did at the last work meeting. Jeez, that guy is such a jerk.
He's the reason we have to have another one of those seminars.
We've started calling them the Hoyden seminars.
We've just started calling them Hoydens.
Hoydens. Emily, that's my guess. Is a Hoyden a
seminar for when something bad happens at the office?
Yeah. No. Let me use my tools at my disposal. And the first is to try and figure out what this language of origin is. And it feels Dutch to me.
Wow, Kyle. I mean, we don't know for sure, but Dutch is like the leading theory. Well, Dutch is the theory.
There are no leading theories.
Yeah, I don't think there really is, but Dutch is the one that we have.
Yeah, sure. It must be a noun. You can't Hoyden something, can you?
Yeah, it is most often a noun, can sometimes be an adjective, can very rarely be a verb.
Oh, yikes.
But I would keep it as a noun in your head. Okay. That's the most
keep
common.
It as a noun in my head, and the last thing I can do is take a guess, and then you get to give me one of those delicious hints.
Oh, I don't like the way you described it.
One of those delectable, lip-smacking hints. I'm going to guess that a Hoyden is a title of something. I don't know.
It does describe a person. I'll give you that hint.
Oh.
I'll tell you that you're in the right zone. But do you want a hint?
I would like a hint as well, yes.
The one-word hint I have is Eloise.
Eloise. Are you talking about the children's book character?
Who knows?
Who knows? I read one of those books for one of my classes last semester. Good books. Great art.
I
Love
loved
it.
them as a child.
Hilary Knight is the illustrator. I can't remember who the author is.
And good 2 live-action movies that they made were good.
Oh,
they were
yeah?
cute. Yeah.
Starring, I assume,
Jeffrey
Rosie
Tambor.
O'Donnell. Oh, okay.
He played
As
the
Eloise,
hotel
huh?
manager. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, I think a hoyden, based on your hints,
Yeah.
I think a hoyden is a loose cannon.
Honestly, Kyle, close enough.
Yeah?
Yeah. So a hoyden is a badly behaved, brash, or boisterous young woman or girl.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is an Eloise.
So a young female loose cannon. It can also more rarely be an adjective meaning badly mannered, brash, or boisterous, although I think hoydenish is more common.
Hoydenish is funnier, so it should
Absolutely.
be more common. Yeah, hoydenish. That sounds like, Also, hoyden, definitely a hoyden.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And then I found a few references of it being used as a verb to mean to behave in a hoydenish way. To hoyden.
I see.
But a noun is most common to describe the person. So from around the 1600s, hoyden is usually used to refer to a young girl who's a little scamp, or sometimes a young woman who is not mild.
Sure. Sorry, what year did you say?
From around the 1600s, although...
Whoa, that's so much older than I expected.
Yes, it's an old word. And it could be older than that, because 1600s is just when a lot of, first references in English start appearing, because that's when, standard written English was appearing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it could go back further than that. I don't know. But that use of hoyden was a narrowing from a slightly broader definition of hoyden, meaning an uncouth or bad-mannered person, woman or man. And going back further to the 1500s, hoyden meant an unsophisticated, uneducated, or socially awkward man, which is kind of what you suggested at the beginning.
It is, yeah. So our hoyden was in the medieval workplace.
The oldest sense, yeah. Yeah, he was at the grist mill.
Yeah, I was going to say he was an alchemist, but sure.
Sure. That too. That's the problem, is that he was at the grist mill, but he was practicing alchemy.
Water cooler alchemy.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about the association with women specifically in a little while, but let's start with the etymology. Most etymologies for hoyden link it to a Dutch word, heiden, Heiden. Heiden is literally just the Dutch equivalent of heathen, Heathen.
The more I learn about Dutch, the more I discover that their words are very similar to English words. They don't always mean the same thing, but they look very similar.
Sonically very similar, yeah. And this word is an old Germanic word, heathen. So English and Dutch and Frisian and German and all of the Germanic languages have some version of heathen, H-A-E attached, thorn, E-N.
Oh, wow. Ooh.
Or some version of that, something close that's phonically very similar.
I can imagine the readings for this episode were fun, Em.
Well, Kyle, do you know the kind of older and more specific definition of heathen? I think in modern English we use heathen very broadly to just mean anything that we find horrifying.
Would a heathen be someone who is heretical? Like someone who is sacrilegious, I guess? Yeah,
you're in the right vein. It meant a pagan, someone who does not adhere to an Abrahamic religion.
Gotcha. Was there a connotation for that originally? It now has a negative connotation.
I think it has always had a negative connotation. And there are degrees of specificity. Like in a Christian context, it usually meant unchristian. In a Jewish context, it can mean Gentile. I don't know about in English, but the Dutch heiden is also an outdated and derogatory term for a Romani.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah. So any religion that you're not, that you find heretical, is heathen.
Heathenish.
Yeah.
Where does heathen come from?
So heathen just comes from heath, meaning uncultivated land.
Are you trying to tell me that the name heath means uncultivated land?
Well,
Cliff. It's a land on a cliff.
It is. I mean, heath, it's a geographical word. It just means like, where you just see all the like long grass that's all, clumped up because it's unkempt.
So good.
That's a heath.
And so a person who's a heathen is uncultivated. That's good.
Exactly, Kyle.
That's really good.
Yeah. And like it is obviously widened out in its derogatory use to more general meanings like primitive or uncivilized or ill-mannered because it comes from a word for uncultivated land.
I love it. This is good. This is good information. I'm writing this one down, Em.
Yeah, it's a good
episode 520, and I'm finally going to write something down.
Yeah, it is a fun etymology, despite the fact that it's often used as a derogatory word. Anyway, it is possible that the Dutch Hoyden, meaning uncivilized, gave rise to this word Hoyden, meaning an unsophisticated man. However, all of the dictionaries I looked at are at best unsure, at worst fully doubtful that this is true.
It's just one of those things we'll never know, and so it's just kind of nice to have a made-up story associated with it.
I think like the only evidence we have is like a glossed etymology from one lexicographer in like an old Dutch Latin dictionary.
Oh, wow.
And like that's the only source that we have that says this is true, right. So it's tough to really put all our marbles in that one.
Yeah.
So that's like the only, I think, hard theory we have about where Hoyden comes from. But while we're on the subject of related words, there is a similarly uncertain but also possible theory that Hoyden is related to the word hoyt, Hoit.
Oh boy.
Yeah, take a guess on that one.
I don't know if I was supposed to have a reaction like I know. Yeah,
I mean,
this word, are you kidding me? I hoited earlier this morning. I'm so hoit right now.
No, so hoyt was a verb used primarily in early modern English. An 1822 dictionary defines it as to indulge in riotous and noisy mirth.
To hoit.
To hoit. To romp, essentially.
To romp. This is good.
To roop and romp.
To roop and romp and hoit and holler.
Yeah, you got it. I have a quote here from a 1650 book, A Pisgah Site of Palestine by Thomas Fuller. I know, guys, we're not going to get into it. We're talking about a book today, I promise. That's all. As far as I can tell, this is a book about the geography and history of the Holy Land, of the places mentioned in the Bible. But it's also got a lot about this 1650 man's idea of Jewish culture. I cannot promise how well studied it is. I do not know.
Thomas Fuller.
I think he wrote a lot about religious things because you quoted him recently in Jactitation about some church-related book. So I think he was a Christian writer.
Sure.
The quote I have is from a chapter titled Section 6, The Habits of Girls, Virgins, Brides, Wives, and Widows Amongst the Jews. I know, guys, it's rough. I promise the quote's worth it. A quote, we begin with the girls, when first we find the city full of boys and girls playing in the streets thereof. Let none condemn them for rigs, because thus hoiting with boys, seeing the simplicity of their age, was a patent to privilege any innocent pastime, and few more years will make them blush themselves into better manners. And I just love the idea of hoiting with the boys.
Hoiting with the boys. We do it every Thursday night.
We go out hoiting with the boys. Don't condemn us.
Come on. It's just a little hoiting.
Just hoiting with the boys.
Who's it gonna hoit?
Bingo bango, Kyle.
It ain't gonna hoit a fly.
We ain't hoiting a fly out here.
I'm sorry, what is the context of him having this fun little, I don't know, prosaic dialogue about children?
He's just talking about the habits of girls, virgins, brides, wives, and widows. All the phases of a woman's life.
And this is a part of a book about the geography of the Holy Land?
It's got like maps in it, but also all of this.
I love how desperate you were. It's got like maps in it. Please, someone help.
I don't really get this book.
It sounds to me like he was trying to, I don't know, J.R.R. Tolkien a real place.
A real...
Yeah. You know, it was just like, I'll draw a map.
It's got little dotted lines of like Jesus' journey.
Dear God. And then he met all the disciples and they put in their swords.
Kyle, I wanted to ask you, what else should we start doing with the boys? You know, we've cracked open a cold one with them. We've hoited with them.
You want fake words or other real words?
No, a new verb that we should be doing with the boys. What else should we be doing with the boys?
We should be frickin' flebbin with the boys.
What does flebbin with the boys mean?
You don't, Emily. If you don't fleb with the boys on a nightly basis, you're going to prison.
I'm going to prison?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
You gotta be flebbin. Flebbin, I'm thinking, is, you know, like dabbing, when you're dabbing someone up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Flebbin is the complete opposite.
What does that mean?
It's like the inverse. It's like the convex to one's. You get what I'm dropping, right?
I don't know if I do, Kyle. You're gonna have to like demonstrate this for the people here.
All right. It's like, you remember when SpongeBob did, you know, like bring it around town. That's what it is. That's
flebbin? Okay.
That's flebbin. Yeah.
Gotcha.
But but only when you do it with the boys. When you do it without the boys, it's something.
That's when you get arrested.
Different. That's the arresting, yeah.
If you fled by yourself, it's not good. You got to fled with the boys.
That is criminal.
Kyle, we don't know the origin of Hoyt either. In this case, there's not even a theory, but there is speculation that Hoyt and Hoyden might be related in some way, because phonetically, obviously, they sound very similar, and then semantically, a girl who's out hoiting with the boys is a Hoyden.
Definitely.
Yeah, because Hoyden can also mean like tomboy.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so it's all sort of nearby.
Yeah,
semantically.
Hoyt's a name too, right?
Like with a Y.
Oh, it's spelled Hoit.
This word is, yeah.
And if it's spelled Hoight, then it's I'm John Hoyt.
Kyle's a criminal.
I'm a criminal. I've been flebbing solo.
Kyle's flebbing jokes from a year ago. Kyle, before we move on from Hoyt, if you're anything like me, the second you heard the word Hoyt, you thought of the term hoity-toity.
I'm nothing like you, Emily. I am the convex.
You're the convex. You're the fleb to my dab.
Yeah.
Well, in case anyone else thought of it, apparently in the 1600s, hoity-toity was originally a noun meaning riotous or giddy behavior. Or a hoity-toity meant a romp or a frolic.
This does come from Hoyt, you mean?
We think so, yeah. I mean, It stands to reason.
A hoity-toity.
Yeah, meant just a frolic in the fields.
And people said this?
They did. And gradually it also became an adjective, which is, I think, the part of speech that it is today, but originally meaning frolicsome, romping, or giddy.
Very different meaning from what it means today. Quite the opposite, truly.
Yeah, like, I feel like a person that we today would describe as hoity-toity would be the last person to hoyt.
Would be the furthest thing from a hoyden.
Yeah, absolutely. It did, over time, gain a narrower colloquial meaning, which was a noisy, boisterous, or capricious girl or woman. It was defined... is a hoity-toity. It was defined by one of our favorite slang lexicographers, not Jonathan, but Francis Groves, as, quote, a hoity-toity wench, a giddy, thoughtless, romping girl.
You know, the fact that insinuates that he thought that women, besides hoity-toities, had thoughts is so progressive for that time.
Good for him, you know?
Go for him.
He thought not all women are thoughtless.
Just the hoity-toities.
Just the hoity-toities. There was also a variant of that term, which meant basically the same thing, highty-tighty.
Interesting.
Yeah, spelled like high, H-I-G-H-T-Y.
Yeah, because I feel like hoity-toity is like there's something like tight about it. And that's why we feel like it's uptight today, you know?
Exactly. So... highty-tighty, Francis Groves defines that term as well in a slightly earlier edition of the Classical Dictionary. He says highty-toity, and that he spells like Height, toity, a hoyden or romping girl. So he defines it as a hoyden.
Wow. Okay. All right. Okay.
So clearly these are all linked up.
Wow. And now what's a whitey-tighty?
That's different. And also different than a tighty-whitey.
Yeah. That's what I meant.
A whitey-tighty, you don't even want to know.
I don't want to know.
But you know what you do want to know, Kyle, is that both heity-tighty and hoity-toity could also be used as an exclamation expressing surprise or contempt. Or surprise and contempt, I should say.
Someone would scream hoity-toity when they're surprised?
So the OED has a quote from a Charles Dickens book where a woman says, "Why, highty-tighty, sir, is these your manners?" Or I guess I should say that more Cockney. "Why, hoity-toity, sir, is these your manners?"
Yeah, that fixes it.
So did that help?
It honestly did. Now I feel like I'm in, Victorian England.
Yeah, it's sort of like, well, what do you know? You know?
I do know only because of the context, but I'm stunned. I might scream highty-tighty.
But I think that is sort of the crux of it, is like that, exclamation being used with contempt. I think all of these terms, hoyden and hoyt and hoity-toity and highty-tighty, are terms used with like looking down your nose.
Oh, sure.
Like being annoyed by like riotous people coming from people who we would now say are hoity-toity.
Yeah, maybe that's how that semantic shift happened.
Yeah. My guess is that the terms kind of got turned around on them. Hoity-toity was a word used by highfalutin people, and then it became something we call highfalutin people.
That's a good guess there, and I'm gonna put you into Wiktionary now.
And also, you had a good guess too, because various dictionaries do also point out that it was probably influenced by the fact that hoity sounds like haughty, or highty-tighty sounds like high and tight.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Which is what you said. So there's a link there.
I think we're both right.
We're both right. We're pretty smart,
That's what all of the best have told me.
That's right. That's right. All of the best being my mom, your mom.
And a guy named Hoyden who I work with.
Yeah. I'm sorry about that, by the way.
Yeah, it's rough, He turned my water into wine.
And we were really trying to get work done that day.
Yeah.
All right. I have one last dive for us, Kyle.
Okay.
As promised, we got to get into why Hoyden came to be associated with women specifically.
Yes, yeah.
So the Oxford English Dictionary notes under that usage, a boisterous young woman, it says, quote, recorded earliest as the surname of a fictional character.
Oh.
And they have a quote from a book called The Trial of the Ladies, written in 1656 by a man named William Blake. No, not that one. This is another one.
Who's not famous.
I could not find any information about this man or about this book. All I had was the text.
I mean, he's got two first names, so that's a problem right there. And then there's a more famous person, double problem.
Yeah, it's impossible to Google because you just get results about the other one who was born 100 years later.
Yep. I'm sure he feels great about that right now.
Turning in his grave. Yeah, so all I had was the text of this book, and the text was very rambling and hard to parse. Mm-hmm. But what I could glean is that the beginning opens up as if this is like a letter to a friend, and the narrator is talking about a trial that is currently happening, like in town, I guess. But it's like very clearly a religious allegory, because he's like, the trial is in hell and there are apostles and prophets and all things like that, like clearly religious connotations.
That doesn't sound like an allegory. That sounds like it's literally happening.
Yeah. And he talks about how various personified vices are being put on trial. So he says, quote, the persons called to the bar were Mr. Willful and Mr. Careless, Mr. Kill Devil that swears the new oaths. There was the Lady Hoyden and Mrs. Looseness, Mrs. Tittle Tattle, and Mrs. Never Give Over. And he goes on. There's like a bunch like that.
I can understand most of those. What does never give over mean?
I guess like stubborn.
Oh, sure.
You know?
Tittle tattle.
Tittle-tattle, gossip.
Yeah, no, of course, it's so good. These are characters I want you to do a D&D campaign around. I want them to be the bosses in hell.
They're like not even characters. So like I text searched the word Hoyden in this book. That is the only place the word appears. And like none of these characters get mentioned through the book. They're just mentioned at the beginning and that's it.
They're characters in the bestiary, but you've gotten their information already. You know their HP, you've battled them. We don't need to talk about it again,
Yeah. So there's that book that says Lady Hoyden, uses it as a name for a woman who is Hoydenish.
Okay. Yeah.
And then a couple decades later, another writer does a very similar thing. Sure. There is a Mrs. Hoyden in the 1677 play The Plain Dealer by William Wycherley. Is there any chance you've heard of this, Kyle? I know it's very old.
I have not. William Wycherley?
Wycherley, Wycherley.
Wycherley, no.
I think this one is slightly more famous because like both this author and this play do actually have Wikipedia pages.
Sure.
So, like, they must have some sort of significance. The Plain Dealer is a comedy, and it hits all of the Renaissance romantic comedy tropes.
Yep.
Do you know like the things I'm talking about? Like every Shakespeare comedy.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You got like
does it have like stock characters in it? And
I mean, it's got like professed bachelor who hates all women except the one he falls in love with.
Sure. Yeah.
Every character is in love with someone who's in love with someone else.
Yeah. Okay.
There's a whole disguise plot that makes very little sense, which all of them have. So there's a scene where some of the characters are talking about women that they know and all of their good and bad qualities. One of whom is, quote, "Then Mrs. Hoyden, that calls all people by their surnames, and is as familiar a duck as an actress in the tiring room." A tiring room is a dressing room. "A poor, affable, good-natured soul."
I mean, she sounds lovely.
She sounds Hoydenish.
She sounds Hoydenish. And she's an actress?
She's as familiar as an actress in the dressing room. I guess meaning like she's overly close with people.
Is that how you would describe an actress in a dressing room now?
Just like she is maybe as familiar a sight as an actress in the dressing room.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense to me. I understand now.
I think that's how I read that.
Sure.
It's hard.
Sure.
It's 1677.
Oh, of course. I mean, listen, we're doing the best we can.
We are doing the best we can. But I suspect this is the work that sort of cemented this association between the word Hoyden and lively young women, because this one's a little more famous. But that is what cemented that.
Fascinating, how meanings can narrow like that. Like really interesting.
Yeah. And like that, so that is the way that Hoyden is used most often, is to describe like young girls. I got this word because my dad and I were watching a Poirot episode and we heard it used in context.
Beautiful. Please tell me that Poirot said it.
No, somebody else said it.
Oh, so sad.
Kyle, that's what I got on Hoyden.
Emily, it's a great word. It's a usable word, and it is probably a word that I'm going to sprinkle into my daily diatribes. I don't know if people are going to be appreciative of me calling them Hoydens, though.
Well, all right. Do you want to practice it now, Kyle, and use it in a sentence right now?
Let me practice it right now, Emily. You are as familiar a sight as Mrs. Hoyden in the dressing room. All right. Hoyden. Let me think of some Hoydens out there. Oh, I got a Hoyden. For you.
All right.
There is a popular, question mark in parentheses, Canadian musical adaptation of the Hoyden Anne of Green Gables, and it features a beautiful, catchy earworm.
It's like so earworm.
Of a song, I think just entitled Ice Cream.
Gotta be. So, everyone go look it up if you want to never have another song in your head ever again.
You will only ever sing that. And every time you eat ice cream,
you won't be able to escape it.
Yeah, it'll diminish the enjoyment of eating ice cream a little more each time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Kyle, you want to play a game?
Let's play a game.
Kyle, the game I have for you is called On the Nose. I really like the name Lady Hoyden. I think it's very funny. I think I'd like to start using character names which are similarly apt.
Oh, sure.
So what I'm thinking, I'll describe a character, like a character type, and maybe you could pitch a really on-the-nose name to me. And just to break the fourth wall of this gag, I'm looking for characters that already exist.
Oh, okay. All right. Sure.
You know?
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah. But for the sake of the bit, you're coming up with them right off the top of your dome.
It's autoschidiastic.
That's right. So the first one I have, Kyle, what's a good name for a character who's a werewolf? Who maybe exists in a world where there's a lot of Latin etymology?
Perhaps a teacher of some sort, do you mean?
Yeah, I'm thinking he might be a professor.
Yeah, I would say a man like that might be Professor Lupin?
Oh, Lupin like lupine, meaning wolf-like.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going for.
Yeah. What about his first name?
Yeah, it is.
This is definitely knowledge that Kyle has, I can tell.
Oh, Professor. Oh, now I'm just trying to think of other wolf words.
It's a deeper pull, but it is related to wolves.
Is it like Lycan Lupin?
No, it's Remus, as in Romulus and Remus, who were raised by a she-wolf.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, but you got that one. You got that. I'm going to use that. That's good.
Thank you.
Kyle, what about a character who's like a real jerk and his deeds are all mischievous?
Just a no-gooder. No-gooder.
Yeah. I'm thinking I might want the name to be alliterative.
Oh boy. What is he appearing in?
Yeah, I think I might use him in a show where people are racing.
And maybe he's got a snickering dog.
Yeah. I'm good. This is good character work. I'm digging this.
He's good character work, yeah. I think you might call this gentleman maybe Richard Dastardly, if you want to be alliterative. Dick Dastardly.
Love it, Kyle. Love it. Absolutely.
I'm trying.
Okay, all right. So I've got another villain character. She's just really unkind, almost like she's like from hell. Do you got any ideas?
From hell.
Yeah. I might compare her to like the Lord of Hell, you know?
The Lord of Hell. Sure.
Yeah.
And what's the context she's going to be presented
She's
in?
just, it's kind of like if she doesn't scare you, nobody will, you know?
Yes.
If she doesn't scare you, no evil thing will, I might say.
No evil thing will. Yes.
Yeah.
She's like a spider waiting for the kill.
Yeah. What would you call her?
I would call her maybe like Cruella DeVille.
DeVille like devil.
Like devil, and Cruella like cruel.
Like cruel. Okay, let's do one more. I've got
please.
Another villain.
I like this game a lot.
This is a good trope for villains, I'm noticing.
Sure.
For this character, I think he's a mob boss, and he's like the top guy, but he's a little immature. He's not quite a man. And he's also, I think, Al Pacino.
Oh, God. Now I have to remember what that villain's name is. Oh, God. Yeah. And he might be in like a comic, right? You might see him in
like a comic strip, but maybe that was adapted to a film and he was played by Al Pacino. And maybe if you don't have a good name for that guy, if you could think of any other names for people in his rogues gallery, I would take that too.
I mean, there's a character, I'm just spitballing here, but maybe a character that would be played by Dustin Hoffman.
Sure.
Named Mumbles, and he mumbles a lot.
Oh, he mumbles a lot. Love it.
He mumbles a lot.
Yeah. And maybe a guy with big old lips whose name is Lips Manless.
Lips Manless. Yeah. I'm trying to remember, what is Al Pacino's character's name in that movie?
Big Boy Caprice, because he's the big guy.
He made his character way less on the nose than all of the other characters in that.
It's true. He's not big in literal sense. He's big in his status. Dick Tracy, guys, it's a magical film. Warren Beatty's Dick Tracy. It's one of the greatest viewing experiences I've ever had. And I mean that honestly, sincerely.
It is a 10 out of 5 film.
Kyle, you did great.
You did great, Em. Hoyden is a great word, and so is hoyt and hoity-toity and heity-toity and Lady Hoyden. It's been a whirlwind adventure learning about these raucous ladies. And I wouldn't call you Hoydenish, Emily, but you're raucous all the same.
All right. Well, Kyle, what should everybody remember?
Hey, everybody, you should remember that you can find Butter No Parsnips on social media, and that is on Facebook and Instagram at Butter No Parsnips Podcast and on TikTok at Butter No Parsnips. And if you like today's episode, consider giving us a 5-star rating or review wherever you heard us.
If you really like today's episode, you can consider donating to our Patreon at patreon.com/butternoparsnips. Donating $5 or more earns you a shout out, either on social media or here on the podcast.
Thanks so much to all of you. You help us make what we make.
And with that, I've been Emily Moyers.
And I've been Kyle Imperator, and this has been Butter No Parsnips.
Butter No Parsnips is produced by Seth Glicksman, Kyle Imperator, and myself, Emily Moyers. The main and accompanying themes were composed by Kyle Imperator.